So before this video starts, a lot of the information I talk about in here is really simple stuff that if you've played Zen for a while, or if you just play the game at a slightly higher rank, like Platinum and above, you probably know a lot of this beginning stuff. So if you get bored by it, just skip around 2 minutes in and I start going into more detail. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. Okay, so this is my Zenyatta Transcendence guide. This guide is going to cover basically everything about Zenyatta's Transcendence, some general info, when to use Transcendence, when not to use Transcendence, and some tips for things that you can do before, during Transcendence, stuff like that. This is all stuff that I do in my Grandmaster Zenyatta games, so hopefully a lot of you will find stuff that you find useful and that can help you in your climb. So to start, some general info about Zenyatta's Transcendence. It heals 300 HP per second, it lasts 6 seconds, and the Zen's movement speed increases during Transcendence, and he is completely immune to everything, I think. So, to start, when to use. Basically, because Transcendence heals your team over time, so like I could easily heal these bots up.
Tranquility.
You basically want to use it primarily against ultimates that gradually deal damage to your team, or ultimates that allow the enemy to deal damage to your team. So ultimates like this might be a Genji Blade, Pharah ult, Zarya Grav, stuff like that. In general, not stuff that can one-shot you. So if your team's in a Grav with no Reinhardt and they have a Widowmaker, your Transcendence is almost useless because your teammates can still be headshot and will still die from the headshot. So yeah, use it primarily for ults like that. You can also use it when you see, if you're, let's say for example, your Ryan Zarya are incredibly weak at the front line, and if they die, you lose the fight, you can just pop your Trans, rush in, go save them, and then counter push with your Transcendence and hopefully win that team fight. Now when not to use Transcendence. The obvious one, when your team's been anti-naded, obviously Transcendence does nothing. And when your team is at risk of large burst damage, so like a Tracer Bomb inside of a Grav, everyone's still going to die. A Diva Bomb, everyone's still going to die. McCree ult, everyone's still going to die. Stuff like that. So I've got a couple clips here. That's paint, hang on. So this first one is just an obvious time when you use Transcendence. They Grav. I see our Reinhardt and Doomfister in there. We're playing solo tank Reinhardt. If he dies, we lose. I use Transcendence, keep them both up, and then we can we walk back to stabilize, and we see here we get a counter push. Now, what's important to note in this clip is that, let's see if pops in. Well, you can see his little things here. We also have a Lucio. So that's really important because I have my Trans. Lucio in this instance didn't have beat drop, but let's say he did. You want to basically make sure that your Lucio knows who is going to Trans or who is going to beat drop. So here, if me and Lucio both pop our defensive ults, one of them has been wasted. We only needed one to win this fight, or to maintain ourselves in this fight. So if we both use our ults and then let's say they had a Genji who had a Nanoblade, we would then wipe. So just make sure you communicate if you have another defensive ult on your team. That's the main thing about this clip. Just a general tip here as well. Before I go into Trans and before they push in, my Discord has been applied here. So if you look, Ryan discorded. I give the call there, Ryan discorded. Then I Trans. Unfortunately, Reinhardt actually gets the bubble on him here, so my Discord drops anyway. But if he wasn't to get the bubble here, it would mean that we can push Reinhardt extra hard in my Trans, and he's going to take 30% more damage. Obviously, Discord is something that you can't reapply when you're in Trans, so try and get it out before you Trans. Obviously, it's not always that easy, but yeah, that's a general tip. So another time that you can use Transcendence, let me find it. Somewhere around here. Here we go. So, our Zarya goes down here.
Genji discarded over there, mate.
Reinhardt goes down here, so now we're down both of our tanks. And they are pushing very aggressively here. They have... let me just get my marker out. Currently, they have a tick, and we are down both main tanks. Okay? This Reinhardt is pushing us incredibly hard. They have a Lucio, and they are speed boosting. So, it's not looking good for me and Anna, sat on the point here. I know he has hammer down. I'm anticipating his hammer down. Comes out there. And I actually get very lucky here. Because they have a Genji. And I was keeping my Transcendence ideally for this Genji. That way I can keep myself, my Anna, possibly my Hanzo alive. Everyone else would be kind of okay, but that would still wipe us. So they actually decide to hammer down and Genji Trans at the same time. I managed to prevent the hammer down. And I didn't do it initially here, which was a fault on my part. Actually, I was fairly quick. At this point here, right? Genji's dashing in, we don't care about him, he's gone. This is my Anna on the ground. Transcendence only would save Anna from, like, a soldier shooting or the Genji slashing at her in this situation. So if their Reinhardt decides to charge Anna, she still dies. Because of this, try and move yourself in the way, so like right here, so that if their Reinhardt charges, he gets you and not your Anna. That's the main takeaway here. I didn't really do it that successfully. Luckily, we had our mail going all the way around that froze Reinhardt. But yeah, it didn't matter, but that's just another Transcendence tip. If you do manage to save a hammer down, which is not that difficult, you can do it consistently. Try and put yourself in the way of whoever he's going to charge. Now, the slight issue is that if you have a Reinhardt and you're playing based off reaction and you hear their hammer down, you can't just trance every single time you hear hammer down, because if your Reinhardt saves it, then you wasted trance. So just be careful with that. It can happen quite easily. I'll show you another instance where this happened. So there's a Reaper pushing us right side. At this point, I would consider trancing anyway, honestly. We have... So, first of all, there's 15 seconds left. Okay? I have an incredibly weak Zarya here. There's someone else on my team over there. I can't tell if it's Bob that's weak or not. No, Bob's full health. Bob's just been sent out. So there's someone else incredibly weak over here. And our Reinhardt is nowhere to be seen. So I hear this. I pop trans. Our Ashe manages to pick the D.Va here, which is really nice. And they come in with the Coalescence. But luckily, I get my trans off, and if you look, I'm sat in front of our Zarya. I don't think it makes a difference here. Yeah, because Reinhardt messes up his charge. Although they did have a Widowmaker, so I had to be careful about that. But it was a Zarya, so it was all good. We end up saving the point. So this comes down to... Reaper had his ult there, which is probably what I was keeping my trans for, but I was forced to use it before he ulted. We managed to pick him. He ulted way too late in the first place, but in general, always use your trans to save the fight as soon as you can. Don't let your team die and then say, well, they have a Reaper ult now, that's why I saved trans. That's not really the best way of doing stuff. So kind of, to draw this out, let's say they have a Zarya and a Genji, right? And you're Zen. If they were to grab you, right? You would obviously trans this as the Zen, so you trans keep your teammate alive. Something really important to do is try and get your Discord on Genji before you have to trans. Obviously, if you're caught in a grab, just trans it. Don't bother trying to find the Genji. But then, after the grab ends, tell your team Genji's going to blade unless we kill him this fight. So basically tell your team push Genji hard with my Transcendence, because it keeps everyone up. So then you push Genji, hopefully you kill Genji and win that team fight. Now, next team fight, if Genji chooses to ult, there's nothing you can do about that. You've done your job as the Zen at that point. But there are other ways to stop a Genji, like a sleep dart, a hammer down, your own grav, loads of different stuff, or just killing him in the air. You know, you can flashbang him, freeze, whatever. And the same would go vice versa. So if this is you, they nano blade into you, or just blade into you, you trans, keep everyone up. Then you say to your team, okay, let's go kill Zarya in my trans, or explain all this to them before you're in the moment. Just say, if I trans the blade, we're going to need to kill Zarya in my trans, otherwise we're going to wipe again. So that's kind of like the basic stuff. It's everything I can really think of. There are a couple like unique points where you can use it, unique cases where you can use it to stall out a point. In general, I don't really like those, because unless it's right at the end of a fight, or of a game, then I think it's fine. But don't just use it to stall points out. It's not really that worth. And then another thing is, let's say they're running dive, and their team all dives onto you, right? So Monkey, D.Va dive onto you and stuff. You basically, and Genji even, you basically lose if you die here. Well, let's say they don't have a Genji for easy explanation. You lose the fight here, because they'll be a man up. So you can choose to trans here if you want, just to save yourself, and then counter push with the trans. And that's kind of it, really. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope I taught you something useful about Zenyatta's Transcendence, how to use it, how not to use it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed.